today's okay. Our session today, yes, I can see you. Our session today is observational study design, and our facilitator will be Dr. Walter. I will allow you to ask questions in the end of this session. So without wasting any time, Dr. Walter, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I greet you all and all those who have joined us in this session. Yeah, just to remind those who are new with us, this is a continuation of a bundle of topics on how should we write our research proposals towards the research that you have planned to conduct. And then this is all about academic writing. It's not about project writing. It's more of academic writing. And we are just sharing the basic knowledges and how should we write as a basic foundation. And then as times go, we may go to other levels of advanced. So today we are still in the section or chapter of methodology. We started with the study setting, and now we are in the segment of how should we opt research design or study designs. And then this is the topic of today. And I will go direct to the observational studies. But before that one, I will take you through these objectives. At least we should have a common understanding of what do we mean when we say study design or research designs, but identify at least the classes, the categories or types of study designs. And then we will go specifically to the observational study designs. And then we are going to analyze it to see what is there in the package of observational studies. And then later on, by the end of this session, at least each of us who are in this session will be in a position to demonstrate the knowledge and at least the skills of writing observational study or research design that we have identified based on the concept that you propose to conduct your research, be it academic research. So, as researchers, we may be beginners and sometimes in advanced level, middle level, because we have been divided as beginners, middle level, and we have those who are at high rank in research. So we beginners, sometimes we get stranded in a dilemma situation on how should I know that my research design is going to be cross-section or case study, case series, whatever. So this is a challenge of most of us as beginners in research. You may be in a position, you have an idea, you have a concept that you need to conduct a research on this area. And sometimes you face a challenge of opting which design fits my concept that I have proposed to do a research or conduct a research. And then this session at least is going to give you a light on how to decide which exactly is a study design, appropriate study design to your concept of research. So the basic foundation of you deciding what study design fits your study is the philosophical assumptions of the research. Because it's known that no research has got no philosophy. And philosophy is belonged to the researcher himself or herself. Any researcher who wants to conduct a research must first have a philosophy on the independent variable and the dependent variable, or input factors and the outcome variables for those who are doing interventional studies. So the philosophy that you have at the beginning, at the zero stage is what determines you where to go and how to go to reach the destination of your research. So we first have philosophy, because, for instance, I want to study teenage pregnancies among adolescents in Tanzania. So this is a problem that is there, that most of adolescent girls are facing a challenge of getting unplanned teenage pregnancies at school age. And then what is my philosophy on this or towards this problem? Is maybe adolescents are not having enough knowledge on the disadvantages of having teenage pregnancies at school age, you see. And then once they are educated, mean that they can be in a position to decide and protect their bodies. This is my philosophy. And then this may inform me which kind of study am I going to conduct. Am I going to manipulate now students by teaching them how should they protect their bodies? Or should I go there and observe what is happening so that I prove that, yes, there is teenage pregnancies among adolescents. So if you intend to manipulate the study participants, maybe by taking the blood samples or teaching them anything that manipulate them, is where you can opt research designs in the intervention arm. And if we are going just to observe what is happening in the ground there, and then coming back to report what is there, because people know not all people can reach the situation that you are going to conduct your study. You are a representative of an entire scientists or researchers, so you go there to represent others, but you go there for the intention of observing what is there, and you come back report them to others. It's where now you can opt observational studies. So any study philosophically which do not intend to manipulate participants, you go to the research designs and interventional studies. But those that do not involve manipulation of study participants or respondents, you go to the arm of observational studies. See? So what is study design or research designs then? So this is just an approach that researchers or those who want to do research uses. Direct them, a framework that directs them on how should they conduct a research to get the intended outcome or to get the intended goal of conducting that research. And sometimes you can call them as inquiry strategies, you see, because we don't know what is happening to the society or to a certain group of people. So you design a framework of going there, and the mechanism of getting information from those who are intended, and then you manipulate the information or analyze the information, bring out the product of results or findings, and then interpret the findings to people. See? Yes, so you can call it as inquiry strategies or approaches, inquiry approaches. But also, it's a process also. You can define it as a process that researchers we use. And it's always a systematic process, you see, that guides us on the collection, but also processing, management of those data or information, analyzing them, but also interpret them to those who are not there where you went to collect data. So these are the concept. This is a concept of study design, a model that guides you to go there. See? So it may be a guide in an intervention approach, but also it may be a guide or a logical model in an observational approach. See? It depends with the concept and intention of the study. Now, for you to opt a study design, you have a requirement. As beginners, we have these at least require prerequisites for you to have a study design or to be in a position to opt where and in which arm are you belonging or falling to. So the first one is, I believe, as I said, philosophy. Philosophy, you have a philosophical framework that this problem is happening because the community have no any knowledge or comprehension about what is the disadvantages of not boiling drinking water. You see? So as something that people have no knowledge, this is your philosophy because you saw that there is a problem somewhere. See? Yeah, so you determine how the research is going to be conducted. So the model or the philosophical framework will help you to plan how are you going to conduct your study. And then how are you going to conduct your study will inform you which design, you see. Yes, so the second prerequisite that you must have on table is the procedural activity plan. Do you plan to go there and interview people only? Do you plan to go there and take a blood sample for testing the level of hemoglobin? Do you want to go there and teach people? So the procedural activity that you plan will inform you which design do you fall in, you see? And then the third prerequisite here is you must demonstrate and show, indicate the why and how answers. So in this section, the section of research designs requires you to ask yourself, why am I choosing study designs under observation? Or why am I choosing designs that are under intervention study? So you must have a reason. And then the reason is my philosophical underpinning this study is that I believe this is happening because there is moja, and then 2, 3, 4. You see? So if we have those answers to why are you opting this study design, mean that you will be in a position to stick that this study fits cross-section design or fits quasi-experimental design. And then also you should demonstrate or establish answers to the how question. How did you select the research design? As a researcher, be it beginner or middle level, you need to answer this to your colleague. See, it's an attempt, a brain teaser. Ask your colleague, what do you think that I opted? Why did I opt cross-section study? How did I opt? So you demonstrate that skills to your colleagues, but even yourself can ask yourself, why did I end up with the descriptive cross-section study or analytical cross-section study? So if you have these why and how answers, this will help you in confirming that this study design is appropriate to my research. See? Yes, so we have some questions to qualify these prerequisites. As a researcher, before you confirm that this study design was appropriate or is going to be appropriate to you, ask yourself these questions. See? These questions fits as requirements for you to confirm that the study design that you have opted to be used in your study or your research that you are proposing. You see, the first one, for instance, you say, what is your study about? Have an answer to this question, but you have an answer to the second question. Why is the study being made? And then if you answer the first question to the last, mean that also you are at least improving your philosophical idea of the problem and the study or of the concept that you are proposing and to do a research. See? Where will the study be carried out? Type of data that you're going to collect from people. And then you see that if I collect this data, it will be important in my study. But also, where can you get this data? You see? And then even the period of time. How much time are you going to take to collect data and come back, start managing the data, analyzing it, and start interpreting it? So the time frame also gives you a room to confirm that the study design that you've opted is appropriate to my study. You see. And then also the sample design, you ask yourself the techniques of data collection, because also they inform you which design fits this approach of collecting data, the technique of collecting data, but also the data analysis. How are you going to analyze your data? It's a prediction. You see, so some predictions of the methodological activities or procedures will inform you and confirm that the study design that you have opted to be used to conduct your research is appropriate to you. You see? And then a kind of style of reporting the findings after you are back from the research will help you also to opt and confirm that the study design that you have opted for your proposed research is appropriate to you. So if we have answers to these questions, at least you will be in a position to confirm that I am able to opt appropriate research design to my proposed research. And then this is a kind also of individualized brain teaser. You can sit after this session and try to establish answers to these questions, so that if people in your defense asks you, how did you reach to this study design? You'll be in a position and have some reasons of how did you reach and why did you opt such a study design. So this is makes a framework of the requirements for you to opt an appropriate and confirm that this is research or study design that you have opted is fitting your proposed research. See? Yes. So we have now the types here or classes of research or study designs. And then mainly at basic level, we have two classes or categories of research or study designs. We have observational studies and we have experimental study designs. And experimental, sometimes they are called the action researches, you see. And in educational fields, they call them educational because it involves the manipulation of those who are involved in the study, that the participants that you want to collect data from them. So we are going to stick on the observational studies, as I said, as the main agenda in this session. So by saying observational studies, as I said, that first, they do not involve manipulation of the study participants. Manipulation can be in two aspects. You can manipulate the participants without invasive procedures to their bodies. Invasive procedures like giving them injections, drugs, cutting their parts of their bodies, you see, drawing blood from them, introducing catheter, maybe for those who are doing healthy sciences, in the insertion of catheters to patients, cannulation for drug or medications. Those all are invasive procedures, and in research they are called manipulation of the study participants. So this is one arm of the aspect of what do we mean when we say manipulating the study participants by invasive procedures, as the examples that I have provided. And then the other aspect is non-invasive procedures, that if you plan to go there and train the participants on a certain topic or a certain subject matter, is where also you are manipulating them, because they need to take part of that research that you have planned to conduct. And then there is you manipulate the participants. So by saying observational studies, we mean that your study is not going to manipulate your study participants or respondents, be it invasively or non-invasively. That's what we mean by observational studies. See, that's why sometimes those who are doing observational studies, they are called paparazzi. See, those who are transmitting information from one place to another. You see, yes. So you are just observing what is happening. You are just observing the phenomena under study without any manipulation or manipulating the participants. See? So these study designs are organized and arranged systematically, and then by rank. They are organized by rank and weight. See, from observation to intervention. Intervention are the ones, interventional study. If you do an interventional study, you have high weight as compared if you do observational studies. So sometimes you may be driven that I want the world to identify that I am existing in this world. I want reputation. So if we want to be recognized around the world, you go to experimental studies, which are interventional studies or action researches. So action researches have high weight as compared to observational studies. And even observational studies themselves, there are some observational studies which are weak, and then there are some others which are very strong than the others within the observational studies package. See? So the way you approach in experimental studies is the way you guarantee your recognition around the world. You see, because they are believed much than those which are under observational package. So talking of the segment of the observational studies, we have those which are descriptive, and then we have those which are analytical studies. And then under descriptive studies mean that if you are going to study a certain phenomena among people there, I want to go and study, as I said, I take an example of teenage pregnancies among adolescents. And I take it in school adolescents, for instance. And then I want to do descriptive studies. So if I mention cross-section study, mean that I will be under descriptive study, and I will qualify cross-section study as descriptive cross-section study. You see? And then if I tell people that I plan to do descriptive cross-section study, mean that I'm going first not to manipulate the participant, but also the second issue in descriptive, I'm going there not to manipulate participant, but collect their information, and then come here, present the information in proportions. Mean that you will end up with the frequencies and the percentages only. So you describe what is happening there in terms of percentages and the numbers. So I found that out of 20 adolescent girls, 15 had teenage pregnancies, equals to maybe 80%. And then I end up there. If we do like this one, mean that you are under descriptive phenomenon. You are under descriptive approach. You are under descriptive framework. So it can be descriptive case study, descriptive case series. So if it's a descriptive case study, mean that the case study are those which are rare cases, which are happening rare, or they are in few number, or they are not in large number. The event occurs in a very few people. See, and then here is for those who are doing healthy sciences. We can talk of hypertensive patients because there are not many. Few cases qualifies you to opt case study because they are not dispersed around the environment. See, people with sickle cell, you see, people with the Ebola, people with whichever which is in few number, you can opt case studies, and then you have case series reports. See, so case series is like if some people are buying goods or maybe ice cream from a certain supermarket, and then the first one who bought an ice cream from that supermarket experienced diarrhea, and then he reported to the health facility. This will be a case. If we want to study it, it's case study. And then after some times, the second comes, and then he complains the same, that I ate an ice cream from the same supermarket. The second case, the third case, from the same supermarket eating the same product. These are called case series because they are coming one after the other and reporting the same issue from the same unit, from the same source. They are case series, see? So you can qualify them as descriptive case study, descriptive case series report, or descriptive cross-section study. So under descriptive, we have those study designs. These ones that I am mentioning now, they are study designs, but they are under descriptive and the observational studies. See? And then if we opt, we have also analytical observational studies, where we have ecological studies, we have cross-section again, we have case control studies, we have cohort studies also. And then when we say analytical, mean that you see in descriptive, you ended up with the reporting frequencies and the percentage proportions. But taking an example that I gave you from the descriptive study, that I went there to study teenage pregnancies among in-school adolescent girls. And then in descriptive, I said, I found 15 of them, equals to 80%, for instance, had teenage pregnancies. But in analytical studies, I do not end up there reporting the frequencies and the percentages. I end with adding what attributed them or contributed them, influenced them to have teenage pregnancies. So if you find what attributed them to have a problem, is where now you are entering analytical studies. So they can be analytical ecological studies, analytical cross-section studies, analytical case control studies, analytical cohort studies. I say the aim is to present frequency and the percentages, that is the proportion, but you go further, adding what contributed to the occurrence of this problem. So if you do that one, you are now in the analytical framework. But all of them are under observational studies. And then this one is the focus of our study. But today we are going to concentrate on the cross-section study. We are going to concentrate on the ecological, at least to have a highlight on the case control study, but also to have a brief highlight on the cohort study. Because I said we are just sharing basics because of the time sometimes. And then we are always emphasizing you after sessions. You can find the team from Benjamin Mkapa Hospital, but also the University of Dodoma, especially in School of Nursing and Public Health. It's where I am also found there. Open, we can discuss, we can share a lot of issues. But now, briefly, we are going to share on the basics so that we understand what we mean when we say these study designs and observational studies. Yes, so we have cross-section studies. So cross-section studies, as I said, it is characterized by collecting the information from participants that you said that this is my target population, but at a single point of time. So you just go there, collect information, and you come back. No follow-up, no whatever. So you are limited within the scope of the study time. So if the study is 1 day, so you just go there, collect the information, you come back, write what you found there. That is one among the characteristics of a cross-section study. You see? And I said that the way you approach higher ranking of study designs, the way people will believe on your findings or the methodological procedures, you see? Because sometimes we have a challenge. If we do cross-section, people say, if you are doing a cross-section, you are not a researcher. Because cross-section can be done by anyone. And then no proof that you went in the field and collected data. You see, there are sometimes not believing on those who are doing observational studies cross-section, because you can collect data even you are in the car, you are collecting data. You are in the swimming pool, but you are able also to collect data. That's why sometimes it's not believed when you talk to in front of researchers that you are doing observation study and it's descriptive cross-section study. So you collect data at a single point of time, and sometimes you may collect information on the exposure. The exposure means that the predictor, the factor, you see. And then you can also collect data on the outcome of interest. Maybe say teenage pregnancies. That is an outcome of interest, you see. And then if I say exposure, mean that maybe unsafe sexual behavior. For instance, not using condom. I am going there to study if adolescent girls are using condom. This is an exposure, you see, risky. If not, someone gets teenage pregnancy. If uses, no teenage pregnancy. So you can study exposure, or you can study outcome only, but also you can study both. You go there, you study exposure, and you study outcome. If you study both, it's where now you go to analytical cross-section. But if you only study exposure, it's a descriptive. You study only outcome, descriptive cross-section. See? So the main measure of disease frequency obtained is the thing that we call as the prevalence of the exposure or outcome of interest at a one point in time. The major characteristics of this one is you collect data at a single point of time. See, but you can study exposure, you can study outcome, or both of them. You are allowed. So, as I said, in the cross-section, we have types. We have descriptive cross-section study, and we have analytical. As I said also, in the descriptive, we measure just the prevalence, frequency, and the percentages. And then in analytical, we go further, one step ahead, where we measure frequency, but what attributed to that frequency or that proportion. See? Yes. So in descriptive, as we said, we allow collection of data from those that the intention is to establish frequencies, the percentages of the variables under study, but in a single point of time. And then most of us, academically, we prefer observational studies because they are simple. Okay? They are simple, and then as the concept says, you collect data at a single point of time, you start analyzing, start writing. So it is very easy. And then for us who don't bother ourselves to struggle much, we opt observation study. And sometimes you can find yourself forcing, why shouldn't I do cross-section? I want cross-section. I want to graduate. Only graduating. I don't want anything else. So if you are like that one, you are a kind of people in such manner, you may force yourself to enter in observational studies. You see, it's not a sin to be there. You'll be there, but what we are encouraging is follow the procedures, scientific procedures, methodological procedures, so that at least validity of the findings, validity of the procedures to get information are visibly seen. So point prevalence, you can report point prevalence, but period prevalence. So point prevalence are those outcomes that occur rare. For instance, you have an outbreak of diarrhea. Now, your prevalence that you are going to present, the findings that you are presenting to people, they are termed as point prevalence. See, you are addressing the issue of diarrhea. You are assessing diarrhea, the onset, characterization, whatever. So the findings that you are going to report there will fall under point prevalence. But we have also period prevalence. So it's like having diarrhea on any day within the past week. So you follow the onset, since the onset and then to the end of a diarrhea. See, here is a period. So the aim is what we say. Sometimes you find yourself having an objective which says to assess the prevalence of diarrhea among children aged 5 to somewhere there in Tanzania. So here we are targeting to establish the magnitude of the problem. And then this is another characteristics of observational study, but also cross-section study. It establishes, it enables you to establish the magnitude of the problem under study. Yes, so in analytical study, as I said, you establish the magnitude, but what contributed to that magnitude? See, so you are finding also which factor contributed them to be in such a situation, and then these all are measured simultaneously, but at a single point of time. Data collected at a single point of time. Presentation of findings targets on establishing the magnitude of the problem. But in the procedure of collecting data, you can collect data on factors, you can collect data on the outcome itself. See, so you have one questionnaire having those all questions that collect about the factors contributing to the problem, but the questions about the problem itself. Yeah. So the measurements is two factors, but also outcomes. So you assess the current exposure related to the outcome, and then you can also assess the outcome by itself, as you said. You see, but also sometimes and always we say that exposure in cross-section and especially analytical study must predate the outcome. You see, so factors must be there first before the outcome. So you must identify that there is a problem, and then this problem should be featured in your background information, as we said in the sessions of how to write a background. And then from there now, you can establish a time. When are you going to assess now? You have identified the problem. You want to know which factors contribute to such a problem. So you establish a time, because we said cross-section needs time. So a single point of time, and then you go there, collect data, you come back, sit down, manage data, analyze, interpret them. See? So you have questions, you have questions for factors, and you have questions for the outcome of interest. See? And then this study, observation studies are always not testing the hypothesis. You see? So in general, cross-section studies, if we are studying outcome and a factor, you can help those who are planning intervention to have a foundation of generating the hypothesis about the potential association between the risky factors. So you can at least establish a way to hypothesis. And you can also use research questions. See? So that is analytical cross-section study. And then this one is the strengths of cross-section studies. So if we are establishing an hypothesis that you study factors and outcome together, you will help those who are planning interventions studies to have an hypothesis from you. But these studies are very simple, very, very simple, you see. For instance, we are here sharing this knowledge. You can even administer questionnaire to me, and then the study is over. You go back and graduate. You have a certificate. You have graduated the Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And then which study did you do? Descriptive cross-section study. And then you graduated. Yes. How comes it? Yes, I graduated because I did a research. No one will query because it's true that you did a research. See? So they are very simple. And then they are short. You can conduct in a short time. Very cheaper. Yeah. You don't need a lot of money. You see? For those my colleagues who are not having money, and then you want to graduate, they see, I say I want to opt cross section. It's very cheap. But if we want valid information, you want reputation, you go deeper. Don't be afraid. Go deeper. See, it's very useful in describing the magnitude. That I went there, I found that a large number of people have no knowledge about how entrepreneurship is done. See, I went there, I found many of them have HIV/AIDS. So in establishing the magnitude of the problem, optical section studies, which are under observation study. So in the limitation, it's very difficult to establish temporal relationships because we have not followed the exposure vis-a-vis outcome for a long time. So it's very, it brings queries on the relationship between potential risky factors and the outcome of interest. But sometimes it's not useful in testing hypothesis, just as a basic to other who want to do interventional studies. And it's more subject to number of biases, researchers' bias, but also population bias. Researchers' bias is like selection bias. You can even opt a population that is very simple to reach, and then they may show cooperation to you. So you sit down and say, which population will offer maximum cooperation to me? Ah, okay, motorcycle drivers. Oh, okay. So it's very easy to commit biases. See? And then to the population, sometimes it's a recall bias. You see, they can give you, or they can inform you or underinform you about the topic study. Yes, so that is cross-section study, which follows under observation studies. The second is case control study, and then sometimes it's called case referent. Case referent means that we have cases of a problem, those who are having a problem of interest, and then we have those who are not having a problem of interest, but they are sharing the same characteristics. They have homogeneous characteristics. This is case control. So cases mean that, as you said, cases you must have few cases that has experienced the problem. For instance, you have 7 people with hypertension, and then you want to study eating habits, and then you want to employ case control. So those who are eating burger, but they are hypertensive, will they develop maybe stroke? You ask yourself. And then you want to compare those who are eating burger, having hypertension, eating burger, and those who are having hypertension but not eating burger. So this is a case control study. Yeah, so eating burger will cause hypertension. Yes. So by nature, this is analytical, falls under analytical. It's not, as we said in the framework, it's analytical study, but also you can test hypothesis here. For instance, you want to study development of lung cancer among cigarette smokers versus those who are not smoking, but they are at risk of smoking. So you can test the hypothesis under case control study. So key feature under case control study, if we want to do case control study, first you must have a disease of interest. That disease also must be in a rare situation. It's not affecting a large number of people. So that you can term them as cases. You have 5 people with Ebola. Those are cases. And then you want to compare those who are living around those who are having Ebola to see that are they also at risk of developing cholera or Ebola. See? And then you must look back to the factor, what contributed to the someone and to someone having Ebola or to have cholera, maybe those strange issues, rare cases, rare problems. And then you follow back. We have people with Ebola here, and then we are following them back to see what attributed them to contact Ebola. See? Yes, and then later we must, as one among the key features of case control, the frequency of exposure. How many times were they exposed to this environment for them to contact Ebola or to contact cholera? So the frequency of the cases. And then you compare them to the exposure of the control in order for you to measure the association. The more the exposure to this environment among these people, the more the risk to get Ebola. See, that is the character of a case control study. So if the frequency of exposure in the cases is higher than in the control, then the exposure might be the risky factor for them to get the problem. You see, if the frequencies of exposure in the cases, you found that they've been exposed to this environment that caused them to get Ebola is high, then being exposed to that environment for maybe to say an extent of duration to that environment will be a risk. You can qualify it as a risky factor. And sometimes in the control group, if the frequency now in the exposure for your cases is lower than in the control, mean that one is a protective factor. Mean that those who are in the control, exposed in the same environment or in the same object, are not getting the disease. Mean that environment protect people from getting a problem. See? So those are the key features of a case control study. So by itself, it believes on the outcome versus the factor. That's why we say you can generate the research hypothesis. And then where can you get these cases of controls? Mainly we have two sources currently, and at the basic level, where you can get them for those who are doing health science, you can get them from health facilities, but from the general population, where people are living and found. So you can get cases from there, you can get control from there also, see? Yes. And then this is also the presentation of case control studies. It believes on the 2x2 table, or it's also called a contingency table. It's where now you have exposure versus outcome. So it's obvious you see this table when you study case control. And then if you are in a position to study case control, make sure that you have rare cases which affects a minimum number of people, small number of people. But if you have a problem that affects a large number of people, but you want to do or conduct observational study, opt cross-section study. See, and if you want to make comparison, opt case control study. See, yeah. So that is a case control study. It's the concept and the presentation. Its strength is quick also. This one is quick. It's not consuming a lot of money or human resources and human resources. And then it's very better, the best when you want to evaluate rare diseases. We said cases. Cases means they must be few. But if they are large number, mean that you opt cross-section, be it descriptive or analytical. And then if we want to compare, and you want to be in the observational studies umbrella, mean that you opt case control study. See, so you can evaluate rare disease, but also you can evaluate many factors that contribute to a single disease. So you have maybe cholera here. So you can study many factors, which factors contributed to cholera. You can start with the individual, community, and maybe the society at large, and then you see which one contributed to diarrhea, which one contributed to these people getting cholera, which one contributed to these people getting Ebola. See, but it's a limitation. There are some limitations at basic level. You see, inefficiency for the evaluation of rare exposure. You can evaluate rare outcome, but it's inefficient when you study rare factors that contributed to that outcome. See, and then you can not directly compute the incidences, but you can compute prevalences. You see, between the those who are exposed and those who are not exposed to the problem. Yeah, and then it's a lot of biases because we say there must be a problem in the ground, and then you go there asking people. So sometimes people may experience recall bias, and then recall bias sometimes the country the participant may over report the information to you or under report the information to you because she or he has forgotten what happened because she was sick. See, and then maybe the event happened a long time ago. It's very difficult for some people to remember what occurred there, what happened to them. And then to the researcher, as I said earlier, you may have selection bias. See, you want because you are forced to report positive findings. Sometimes you are driven to report positive findings. You can find yourself having selection, but I select those who are having the problem so that I get really experience. But there are some those who are in a window period, but they have the problem. And then if we are concentrating with those who are having signs and symptoms, left behind those who are in window period, mean that you are in the selection bias. So case control study has that tendency. See, so that is a case control, the concept, the presentation, but also strengths and its weaknesses. And how can you opt case control study? See, you want to study a rare case, but you want to compare with those who do not have the problem, but they are exposed to the same factor that contributed them to get the problem. Case control. Yes. Though, so we go to the other study design, that is cohort study design, to get at least the basic concept and its presentation. And how can you opt that I go to cohort? See, cohort by itself is a group of people, but this group of people must demonstrate homogeneous characteristics. They must have the same characteristics. They share common understanding. They share common behavior, similar characteristics. That you can call it as a cohort group. See? So for instance, you can say Benjamin Mkapa Hospital staff. If you go out there and meet any staff from Benjamin Mkapa, this behavior that is demonstrated with the first staff that you found in the gate, and then you find another inside there, will be the similar because they are guided with one standard, which has been prescribed by the hospital. See? Or University of Dodoma staff, if you go there, they share common understanding. They share common culture. They have their own culture. If you see me coming from the University of Dodoma, the way I present myself, the way I express myself, the way I help people, the way it's a culture that you can find to another, which is also guided by the guidelines and the standards of the University of Dodoma. Despite that, we have our own individual factors. The way we were born differs. But when we are engaged, we are belonged with the institution, there are some standards that every one of us must adhere to that standard. Mean that this one is a cohort based on the standard that they follow, what they believe. So you can qualify it as cohort of staff of the University of Dodoma, or a cohort of staff from the Benjamin Mkapa Hospital. Sometimes you can have your friends or your colleague, you select yourself that we were born in the same date, the same year. So you group yourself and call yourself, we are friends because we were born in the same date and same year. So if we meet you like that one and sharing each and everything, work together, we may term you as a cohort of people with similar or same birth date. See? Sometimes we have groups, they unite together. Those who are married, they call themselves and they form a group. And then this group, because what united them to be a group is marital status. So we can call them as a cohort of married people. So being married is the one that lead us to term you as a cohort of married people. See? Cause cohort, we have workers. See? So cohort is a group that share similar characteristics or a group which is guided by a common standard or culture. This is a cohort. See? Yeah. The only thing is they must share the similar characteristics. So we have types of cohort studies. We have retrospective and we have prospective studies. See? Retrospectives, cohort study, mean that you want to go somewhere to study the phenomenon. And then the phenomena is there, is existing. It has happened. It has occurred. See? For instance, we have under 5 mortality. Children are dying. This is a problem which is there. Now I want to study what contributes to the mortality rate to under 5. And then I want to go there and go retrospect. Why did these children die? And then if I do like that one, mean that this is retrospective. The accident has occurred. Road accident has occurred. You see? And then you see journalists go there to ask the driver, how did the accident occur? And then this is a kind of retrospective interview. You see? You find now the cause after the problem has occurred. This is called the retrospective cohort study. So you have the outcome and you have the exposure occurred. See? So you can have the entire population, and then within the entire population you get a sample which has experienced that problem, and then you find out what contributed them to have such a problem. This one is a cohort study. You recruit people who have already developed the problem, and then you ask, you find out why did they develop the problem. You find the exposure. This is a retrospective cohort study. And then this is falling under, as I said, analytical. It's not descriptive because you study outcome and the exposure. Yes, and then we have prospective. Now, prospective is a fresh. You recruit someone who is not having a problem, but you see that is living in the environment that brings him or her to the risk of developing the problem. And then you recruit a fresh. You start following whether he or she will develop the problem of interest. This is called a prospective cohort study. So, for instance, you want to establish the relationship or association between smoking and the development of lung cancer. See? So you recruit those who are smoking, but they've not developed the lung cancer. And then you start following them. And I recruit you, you don't smoke, or you are smoking. And then you may follow him or her, well, to sometimes to see whether he or she is developing lung cancer or not. See, this is a prospective study. So you recruit a fresh study participant who has not developed the problem or the outcome of interest, and you start following time after time to see at a certain interval to see whether later he developed or he does not develop the problem of interest. That is the type 2 of cohort study. So we have features or key features that qualifies you to have, or someone if he reads your document and in the methodology you wrote cohort study without qualifying it as retrospective or prospective, people will query. And then during your defense, you will be asked which type of. So to minimize those those questions, just to qualify your study design, because we have also descriptive, whatever. This one is analytical cohort. See? So one among the key feature, you must have a suspect. If we want to do maybe prospective, you need to have suspects that I suspect those who are living near factories, they are at risk of developing asthma. So you go there and recruit them before they develop asthma, and then you follow while they are living near the factory to see that, yes, are they going to develop or not? And then if it's retrospective, you heard that people are living near factory and they've developed the disease of interest. So you go there, recruit them who have been affected, and then you start finding out what exactly causes them to be sick. Is it living near the factory or there are other factors? You see? Yes. So you can also study at the same time exposure status, see, of the subjects or participants that you have recruited for investigation, to see whether they are free from disease or outcome of interest, or they have that disease. So as I said, you recruit them as fresh and then you follow over time, over period, and then this is prospective. But if we recruit those who have been affected, it's retrospective. See, yeah. And then how do we select the exposure population? Those who are, we say, is at risky population to develop the problem of interest. So we have common exposure, we have rare exposure, the same. So if it's common, you can select them random. So you apply a random sampling technique, and then you have a cohort. And then for rare exposure, those who are maybe in mining, see, or workers in cotton processing plants, those are rare. They are exposed to those issues rare. So we have rare exposure and we have common exposure. Common exposure is like when we experienced the period of COVID-19. That was a common exposure, I see. And then those which we call them as rare exposure, they just affect those only which are and who are living or who are working on those environments. These are rare because they are only the ones to be affected. But if the problem is in the entire population, this is a common. And then if it's a common, you apply random because each of us are affected by the problem. See? Yes. So we need also to obtain accurate exposure, but follow up the information for a maximum period of time for you to conclude that this one causes this one. See, as compared to when someone is not exposed to this one. Yeah, so you must have sufficient number of outcomes. It's not one. If it's one, it's said case study. So you must have several cases. See, yeah, so that you establish a large the magnitude, but also the relation, so association between outcomes and the factor. So selection of the comparison, as I said, those who are not exposed, how do you select them? See, so it's similar. Factor is there, you select it because they are also at least to get the outcome of interest. And then the aim is to establish the association. And then we say the cohort studies are analytical by nature, establishing the association between the outcome and the factor, which causes the outcome to happen. You can follow the same approach with the sample. that have developed the problem of interest. See, what is required is to have adequate number of comparison. The way you compare, you recruit the sample is also establish a ratio, maybe 1-to-1. If we have 10, those who are study population, so we have also 10, maybe those who are not. See, that you are going to compare them. Yeah. So strength is at least here now, you can value when the exposure is rare, but also multiple effects of single exposure can be assessed in this cohort study. And then it allows you to establish incidence than prevalence. You see, because following them, I recruit fresh, those who are not affected by the problem. And then I start following them. If at 1 month, one developed the problem, this is an incident, not a prevalence. So by cohort, you can establish incidents. See? But its limitation now here, it needs time and resources. I say time and resources. But it's not fit for rare diseases because cohort need a number of people. We say a group. See, yeah, and you may experience sometimes to validate the findings that these are exact, but because sometimes as you follow someone to develop a disease to a certain period of time, he or she may drop in between. And then these are called lost to follow-up. So if they drop in between before the time of study, mean that it's very difficult to end up with the valid findings. This is one among the limitation of cohort studies. So we have ecological study. This is now a big. So we started with a single individual level, and then we went to group, where is cohort. Now co-ecological, where you study multiple. You see, where you need an aggregate, you study a large sample size, the entire population, to see multiple factors that caused the problem. So we are moving from individual to groups now in the large, so that you can establish multiple issues. See? So how do you know that I need to do ecological study? Here, if you analyze the situation and then you don't, anyway, you find that the individual data are not available, mean that you need to study the entire population. I say, or individual exposure measurement are not available, but group level data are available. Here, you need to apply or to employ ecological study. Comparison between large units. Here you need it. So you want to study Tanzania versus Malawi, Tanzania versus Uganda. Here now is ecological. You see, although it is easy, quick, and minimal resources when it comes to financial and human resources. See, and then the only limitation here, the interest in ecological effects. You are interested in ecological effects, not at individual level. That is one among the limitations. If we want to report in the entire population, the outcome of it that affects all the exposure that affects the entire population, ecological effects. So you can measure ecological in the aggregate level, in the group level, in the global measure. See, these are the levels that you are allowed to conduct research if you are having a title, and then you ask yourself the question that I showed you in the second slide or third, and then you get the answers, and you said my study design fits to be ecological. Mean that you need to be in a position to opt. Is it an ecological that you measure aggregated, you measure group level, or you measure global level? You see, those are the measurements. Yeah, so this is the idea of ecological study and observational studies, because we have a concept of observational studies, categories, descriptive, analytical, and at least we've touched some study designs under descriptive and under analytical study, and ecological is one among the studies under analytical observation studies. So ending the session, here is a framework at least to help you how to select which arm to go. Are you heading observational package? Are you heading to interventional packages? Here is at least the framework that I saw. If I share with you, it may help you at a basic level to understand how should you head to a specific study design based on your research concept. So you ask yourself, is there any treatment? Is what I said, is there any manipulation of the study participant? If no manipulation, mean that you are going to observational studies. And then if there is manipulation there, invasive procedures or non-invasive procedures, mean that you will be in an intervention arm. See, so if there is no manipulation, which is observation arm, you ask it again, is there primary purpose? Is the primary purpose of examination relationship and the relationship between the factor and the outcome? Do you want to associate outcome and exposure? So if yes, mean that you go to analytical. But if there will be no any association between this exposure to this factor, mean that you are ending up with a descriptive design. So you can see how easy to conduct a descriptive observation study than analytical, because analytical you need to go further. Will the sample be studied as a single group? If no, you end up with the analytical section. If yes, you go further to correlation. So in an observational study, as you go further, is the way as you are reaching the weight of interventional studies. If you are ending up with a descriptive, the weight of your study is very light. And then people will not depend much on that study, other than the outcome variable stipulated in the study title, maybe is the one that people will be attracted to. Otherwise, no any methodological issue that will be alarming or alerting them, convincing them to go further and study what is there. The same. So at least I saw that if I share with you this one, it may also guide you on asking yourself, if you have already developed the proposal and you have a research title, ask yourself, which study design is fitting your study? And then from there, be firm on that one, because you have asked yourself several questions on that one and confirm that it's appropriate and the timely to be applied in study design. Yes. So by this remark, I say this is the end of our today's session. And I would like to welcome you for any experience sharing, whatever you have, questions, discussions, if time allows. So I submit, Dr. Zat.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Walter, for a very nice session. I see that you tried so much to summarize everything. It's indeed a very long topic. So now I welcome Sister Hindu. If you have anything to add so far before I welcome the floor for questions and answers. Sister Hindu.
I have nothing to add, just to thank Dr. Walter for a comprehensive presentation.
Okay, thank you. So if there is any question, please, you're welcome. Question or comment?
Please say as a take home message to those who are with us in this session is Because we are sometimes many of us are beginners and at the middle level of being researchers, and we are struggling much in knowing which direction should I go based on my concept that I propose to go there and conduct research. The take-home message is you should have research-informed rationales rather than researcher-informed rationales. What do I mean here in selecting study designs? When you have research-informed decisions of opting a certain study design, mean that you have gone through analysis, see what have been done, see what do you intend to do. Are you intending to manipulate the participant or not? And then this situational analysis will help you. The situational analysis here is the analyzation of the concept that you intend to propose to conduct a research somewhere. So if you have a number or a bundle of information that fits well in your concept, you will be in a position to opt a study design. This is called a research-informed decision on my study design. And avoid and limit yourself to researcher-based reason or rationale of opting a study design. That means if you say, I opted this study design because it is simple, because it does not consume a lot of money, these are called researcher-based reason. Because principle says, no money, no research. No time, no research. So defending yourself that I opted this study design because it is very simple, it is very cheap. You are exposing yourself into troubles, because what people need is research-informed rationales. Why did you opt this study design? It should be informed by the intention of the study, but what is existing, the existing knowledge on that. So that is what I wanted to share with the colleagues that we are together with them in this session as a take-home message. So thank you, Dr. Zadi. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much for a good, again, for a very good presentation, a well-informed, and also a nice take-home message, which is really well composed and short. So I would like to tell the audience that we will also upload. We will upload this session together with other sessions. And in each video of a session, just at the video description, there is a link to a Google Drive file where you can find all the notes in a corresponding to each session. So the first session has a session 1, etc. So you will receive a notification of once the upload is completed. Again, I would like to thank you so much for your active participation, especially those who have started from the beginning to the end, and those who also managed to join in the middle. Thank you so much. And Dr. Walter, again, thank you so much for your time and your voluntary work.
Thank you very much.